Discover the incredible secret of time, how one heartwarming bowl transformed lives forever. Sarah kneeled in the dusty attic, skimming through her late grandmother's belongings. A chill danced down her spine as she swept away cobwebs, revealing a wooden bowl glowing under layers of neglect. It wasn't just any bowl, it pulsed with a warmth that seemed to envelop her, whispering stories from another time, another place. With a flicker of hope in her chest, she clutched the bowl to her heart. Little did she know, this unassuming relic held the secrets of her family's history and the promise of a brighter future. After long shifts at the grocery store, balancing her life as a single mother and working double time in a diner, Sarah often felt exhausted. Yet, somehow, she found time to encourage her spirited teenage son, Jake, who dreamt of becoming a chef. One evening, stirred by the bowl's allure, she decided to cook. She rummaged through old recipes, each one a thread connecting her to laughter-filled family gatherings. As she stirred spices, the flavorful aromas wafted into the air, igniting her memories of love and warmth. Each bite was more than nourishment, it was a revival of spirit. Eager to share this newfound joy, Sarah dished up portions for her neighbors, a simple gesture, yet one that transformed her place within the community. The townsfolk, who gathered at the church for potlucks, were captivated by her food. They praised her with smiles and laughter. At the diner, the buzz about her culinary skills grew louder by the day. Hope blossomed in Sarah's heart. Maybe, just maybe, this was the opportunity she'd been waiting for, a chance to show her worth in a town beaten down by economic struggles. But with growing popularity came shadows. The owner of the local restaurant, Ralph, watched with simmering jealousy. His dismissal of Sarah's talent stung, and he saw her rise as a threat. Determined to knock her down a peg, he schemed to sabotage her at the upcoming Community Food Festival, a significant event where she hoped to showcase her skills. The pressure was mounting, and Sarah felt the weight of her world pressing down on her, demanding more than she thought she could give. Before we continue, she couldn't help but think, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The festive day arrived, the town square filled with vibrant stalls, laughter, and the smell of various dishes. Sarah stood rigidly behind her booth, her heart thudding like a drum. The anticipation was palpable, her neighbors were counting on her, their faces blending into a wave of support and admiration. Yet, as conspiratorial whispers floated through the air, tension twisted in her stomach. The weight of expectations pressed down like a heavy hand. Just when she felt ready to dive into her moment of glory, Ralph made his move. With a calculated sneer, he stepped forward as the crowd murmured, uncertainty clouding the festive atmosphere. Would Sarah crumble under pressure, or would she rise in defiance? The bowl sat on the table, a silent promise of guidance, as she stood on the brink of a delicious destiny, teetering on the edge of hope and the unknown, ready to fight for her dreams and the future of her community. Ralph leaned over Sarah's booth, an arrogant smile stretching across his face. Did you really think you could come in here and take the spotlight from me? His words cut through the cheery chatter of the festival, freezing the crowd into an uncomfortable silence. Sarah's heart raced. A mix of fear and anger surged within her, but she couldn't let him crush the dreams she'd worked so hard to build. Everyone deserves a chance to shine, don't you think? She shot back, trying to muster a confident smile. The crowd stirred, uneasy but expectant. Sarah could feel their eyes, filled with hope and solidarity, urging her to stand tall against Ralph's bite. Oh please, Sarah. You really think your home-cooked meals compare to my gourmet dishes? Ralph continued, but Sarah's gaze shifted back to the bowl. It was more than just wood, it was a beacon of strength. Taking a deep breath, she focused on what was truly important. The festival wasn't just about competition, it was about community. She turned to the crowd, her voice steady but full of warmth. I cooked these recipes for my neighbors, my friends. Food connects us, nurtures us, and it brings us together. Let us celebrate that. A wave of applause rippled through the crowd, lighting a fire inside her. Maybe it didn't matter what Ralph thought. She had something special to share, something that resonated with the heart of the town. With renewed purpose, Sarah ladled her signature dish into a bowl, a reflection of her grandmother's love, seasoned with her own passion. As she served it, people leaned in, tasting the spirit of family and warmth. Each smile she received fueled her energy, transforming her from just another participant into a soaring spirit of resilience. Yet in the corners of the festival, Ralph's jealousy brewed like a dark storm. Determined to undermine her, he fidgeted with something behind the booth, plotting his next move. The air buzzed with excitement and tension as people began to line up for Sarah's food, drawn by the aroma and authenticity flowing from her booth. Her heart swelled with a mix of hope and determination. Just as she felt herself soaring, laughter erupted from nearby. Look at her. Serving up nostalgia, while we know that love can't just be cooked up. Ralph's voice sliced through the moment, pulling people away from the light she was nurturing. She paused, feeling the crowd's attention shift, her heart sinking. In that breath, the bowl glimmered in the sunlight, reminding her of the stories it held. She realized that she had the power to create her own destiny. With a soul full of courage, Sarah straightened her back. You can't define love by luxury. She called out, her voice rising, wrapping around her words, solidifying her presence. It's in every spoonful of kindness we share. As whispers turned into murmurs of agreement, Sarah felt momentum shift in her favor. She had dared to expose the heart of her passion, a fierce love for her community that no one could take away. The crowd began to cheer, but Ralph wasn't done yet. He stepped into the limelight again, the intensity of fury on his face sharpening as he realized his plans were crumbling. You really think it's that simple? This isn't over. In that tense standoff, Sarah's breath caught in her throat. Ralph was only getting started. What did he have planned next? Would she be strong enough to weather whatever storm he was brewing? Her fate was just beginning to unfold, and it felt like the world was holding its breath, waiting for the next move. Ralph's face twisted into a sneer, his eyes glistening with a mixture of anger and desperation. The crowd was turning back to Sarah, the cheers echoing her defiance. It was her moment, a testament to her strength and the connection she had forged with those around her. But the darker side of Ralph stirred, a sinister plan beginning to bubble up beneath his surface. As the crowd continued to cheer for Sarah, Ralph scoffed loudly, stepping closer to her booth, his voice dripping with disdain. You think they're with you? Just wait, Sarah. I have a few tricks up my sleeve. This isn't about your food, it's a game. And I always win. The tension hung thick in the air, but Sarah stood her ground, refusing to let fear take hold. She locked eyes with the individuals in the crowd cheering her on, saw their encouraging smiles, and felt the warmth of their support wrap around her like a shield. I'm not afraid of you, Ralph. I know what's in my heart, and that's what truly matters. In that moment, something in the crowd shifted. People began to murmur among themselves, discussing the essence of community and the power of love in simple gestures. Sarah felt that energy in her bones, and she returned to serving her dish, pouring her soul into each bowl as if it were a part of her legacy. But Ralph, not one to back down easily, grabbed a nearby microphone, his voice booming over the festival's music. You think your heartwarming meals can stand against real culinary skill? What if I told you about a secret ingredient that could change everything? A hush fell over the crowd, curiosity sparking in their eyes. Ralph's words transformed the atmosphere, planting seeds of doubt. Sarah felt the shift, the wind pulled from her sails. She knew Ralph was about to unleash something devastating. She forced a calm that she didn't fully feel and stepped forward. "What are you trying to say, Ralph?" "Just this," Ralph replied, letting the silence linger. "The secret ingredient you're missing, Sarah, is ambition. It's not just about love, it's about the effort you put into becoming the best." He paused, allowing the crowd to ruminate on his words. "Care and kindness don't win competitions. Skill does." The murmurs grew louder as people began to discuss the validity of Ralph's claims. Anxiety knotted in Sarah's stomach. Ambition, skill, and showcase a silent battle was brewing for the heart of the festival. Maybe Ralph had a point, but her food was a labor of love, a foundation of connection. She had to find a way to remind everyone of what really mattered. Gathering her strength, Sarah lifted her voice again, this time calling out, "Maybe ambition is important, but it cannot replace the magic of real connection. People come together around food, not just to compete, but to share stories, memories, life itself." For a split second, she caught Ralph's surprise, the uncertainty in his anger. But it was fleeting. He clenched his jaw, his expression darkening. "We'll see about that, Sarah. Let's turn this into a real contest. Tomorrow, I'll show you what ambition looks like." The crowd gasped, and Sarah felt a shock ripple through the gathering. She had stirred a fire, but now it was Ralph who had made a demand neither had expected. Was she ready to dive into this dangerous game, knowing it could fracture the love she had cultivated within their town? As Ralph stepped back from the booth, leaving behind an air of challenge, Sarah felt the weight of the moment. She had a decision to make. The stakes just rose, and she needed to prepare. Could she transform this competition into an even greater celebration of her community, or was Ralph's ambition going to drown out her passion? The festival was just the beginning. Tomorrow would change everything. Sarah stood frozen, her heart racing as Ralph's challenge hung in the air like a storm cloud threatening to burst. The cheers of the crowd faded into a dull roar, and for a moment, she could only focus on the clenching anxiety in her chest. It felt like the ground shifted beneath her, and there was no safe haven in sight. She glanced at her helpers, a mix of friends and neighbors who had been with her since the planning of this festival. Their faces reflected a mix of encouragement and worry. They had supported her through countless trials, but now, uncertainty loomed. Would they rally behind her in this fierce competition? Or would they falter with doubt? Taking a deep breath, Sarah stepped back from the booth and summoned the courage she had cultivated over the years. "Tomorrow," she whispered to herself, "I will show them what it means to cook from the heart." With determination ignited within her, she began to map out the next steps, knowing that she had to turn Ralph's challenge into an opportunity. She swept her gaze across the crowd, filled with hope and trust. "Tomorrow, let's celebrate what we love," she called out, striving to carry the feeling from one heart to another. "Bring your best recipes and stories, and let us create an event that embodies our community, not just competition." There was a spark of excitement as people nodded and murmured in agreement. Sarah felt the energy shift again, this time in her favor. She could sense the inviting warmth of camaraderie blooming among the festival goers, igniting possibilities of connection and unity beyond the kitchen. Meanwhile, Ralph's face tightened with irritation. "Don't get too comfortable, Sarah," he spat, his eyes narrowing. "I'll make sure everyone knows what it means to truly create." With that, Ralph turned and stomped away, his footsteps echoing like thunder. Sarah watched him go, her heart still racing but now empowered by the roar of optimism in the crowd. She turned back to her booth, the scent of her cooking wafting around her like an embrace. As the evening sun dipped below the horizon, Sarah felt the pull of inspiration. She gathered her friends together. "We need to prepare for tomorrow like never before," she declared. "If Ralph thinks this will be a game of skill, we are going to show him that heart and passion are talents that cannot be measured." Her friends rallied around her, brainstorming ideas and collecting recipes. Laughter echoed through the air as they reminisced about moments spent in the kitchen together, memories blending together like the ingredients of the dishes they would create. They were building something larger than just a competition, they were cementing bonds that transcended rivalry. As the night deepened, they crafted a plan. Each dish would tell a story, each flavor would be a testament to their love for one another. With every chop of the knife and stir of the pot, they fortified their commitment to a shared experience. Together, they would funnel all their energy into making it a celebration of life, not just a contest. By the time the moon hung high, Sarah felt a transformation inside her. She wasn't just cooking, she was weaving a tapestry of hope, one that would stretch across their community. But deep down, despite her resolve, doubt whispered in the corners of her mind. Would they truly embrace her vision, or was Ralph right? Was ambition going to take the forefront over the bonds that united them? Tomorrow dawned heavy with promise, but would it leave Sarah victorious, or would Ralph's ambition fracture everything she had fought for? As dawn broke, golden light spilled into Sarah's kitchen, casting a warm glow over the hastily prepared ingredients scattered across the countertop. The aroma of fresh herbs and ripe vegetables zapped her with renewed energy, awakening her spirit. Today was the day, a blank canvas awaiting the brushstrokes of flavors, love, and shared stories. Her friends gathered early, faces still drowsy but hearts brimming with purpose. They moved in harmony, a dance built on years of friendship and shared dreams. Sarah's heart swelled with gratitude as she observed them. Each smile, each laugh resonated with a melody she had learned to cherish. "Okay, everyone," she called, her voice firm yet gentle. "Let us split up. Mark and Claire, you handle the savory dishes. Mike and Gina, you're on desserts. I'll take care of the main course." The room buzzed with excitement, a collective readiness to show the world the power of community. As they prepped, Sarah felt the weight of Ralph's challenge lurking in the corners of her mind. She had a vision, but with the pressure rising, the thrill of competition clouded her focus. What would happen if Ralph succeeded in turning everyone against her? She couldn't let that thought take root. "Sarah, do you have the secret spice blend?" Claire asked, interrupting her spiral of worry. "Of course. It's right here." Sarah reached for the glass jar, pulling it out and letting the scent waft into the air. The familiar tang filled the space, and her friends inhaled deeply, smiles breaking across their faces. "Let us do it like we talked about," Mark encouraged, his eyes shining with determination. "We're not here just to compete. This is about all of us." The morning flew by in a flurry of chopping, simmering, and laughter. With every stir of the pot, Sarah was finding her footing. She let her intuition lead, weaving together flavors that told stories of home, family, and comfort. She poured her heart into every dish, infusing them with memories of warm hugs and joyous gatherings. Outside the kitchen, the festival began to buzz with life. Stalls were set up, music played, and people drew closer, anticipating the day's events. The community actively engaged with the setup, hanging colorful banners that rustled in the light breeze, an uplifting testament to their spirit. As lunchtime approached, Sarah felt her heart thumping with both excitement and apprehension. "Just remember," she reminded her team, "we're here to share our love for cooking." Suddenly, Ralph appeared at the edge of their booth, surveying their creations with a scrutiny that felt almost like a storm cloud. His presence sent an electric shiver down her spine, but she refused to yield to the tension. "Looks like you've got your hands full, Sarah," he taunted, smirking. "Good luck, you'll need it." "I'm not here to compete against you, Ralph," she retorted, her voice steady despite the tightness in her chest. "This is about love, community, and sharing something real." Around her, Sarah's friends exchanged glances, silently urging her on. She reminded herself that today was beyond mere competition. It was about who they were and what they stood for as a collective. As they prepared for the first taste of each dish, anticipation crackled in the air. With the crowd buzzing and ready to experience what they had to offer, Sarah found herself stepping to the front, ready to present their labor of love to the festival-goers. Yet, just as she was about to speak, a commotion broke out across the square. A sudden shout pierced the cheerful ambience, drawing everyone's attention. "What's happening?" Sarah wondered aloud, a knot tightening in her stomach. The crowd gasped, and for a moment, her fears shifted from the rivalry to an unforeseen crisis. What had disrupted this moment of unity they had worked so hard to create? The clamor grew, drowning out the music and laughter that filled the festival moments ago. Faces turned, eyes wide with concern, as whispers coursed through the crowd like ripples in a pond. Sarah's heart raced. "What's happening?" she asked again, a tremor of anxiety creeping into her voice. Mark stepped closer, scanning the area. "Over there," he pointed. "It looks like someone fell." Instinct kicked in, and Sarah pushed through the throng of onlookers, her friends close behind. As they rounded a booth piled high with colorful produce, they spotted a woman on the ground, clutching her chest, struggling to breathe. Panic coursed through Sarah. She knelt beside the woman, her heart pounding. "Ma'am, can you hear me? What's wrong?" The woman coughed weakly, her face pale. "Just a little dizzy. I'm okay." But Sarah saw the fear in her eyes, a reflection of her own growing dread. She knelt down, her hands firm but gentle as she reached for the woman's wrist, checking for a pulse. It was there, but thready. "She's not okay," Claire exclaimed, her voice breaking through the fog of worry. "We need to call for help." At that moment, a man rushed forward, his face etched with concern. "I'm a nurse," he announced. "Let us clear some space." He crouched down next to Sarah, assessing the situation with practiced ease. "Stay with us, ma'am. Can you tell me your name?" "Lila," the woman whispered, fighting to keep her eyes open. Hands pressed around her, forming a protective barrier between her and the frenzy of the festival. Sarah felt helpless, the festival spirit dimming around her. She exchanged glances with her friends, they shared the same worry, the same feeling of urgency weighing them down. The crowd began to disperse, some people moving toward the front for a better view while others pulled out their phones, ready to capture the moment of public tragedy unfolding before them. The cheer from earlier faded to a low buzz, and the unity they had felt moments ago seemed like a distant memory. "Is there someone we can get her?" Sarah asked the nurse, desperate for a way to help. Instead, she felt like a mere bystander, stuck in a scene she never anticipated. "An ambulance is on the way," the nurse replied, looking up. "All we can do is keep her calm." As seconds ticked by, Sarah did her best to create a sense of safety and warmth for Lila. She held her hand, stroking it gently. "You're not alone. Help is coming." But in the back of her mind, nagging thoughts echoed. Would the festival continue once this was over? Would Ralph use this moment to twist the narrative? The fear of losing the hope and connection they had built loomed, but she couldn't let it infect the atmosphere. Slowly, Lila's breathing steadied, and the nurse nodded, seemingly encouraged. "That's it, just breathe." Finally, sirens pierced the air, growing louder, and with them came the hope of relief. But Sarah couldn't shake off the weight of the moment. She looked around at her friends, who had rallied together, and the crowd, still murmuring about what had just unfolded. When the paramedics arrived, it felt like a lifeline. They took over with authority and expertise, and while Sarah held onto the warmth of Lila's hand, she felt a swell of compassion fill her heart, a reminder of why they had set out to share a meal and create bonds. "Let us finish what we started," Mark encouraged, his voice firm beside her as the paramedics wheeled Lila away. With determination, Sarah returned to their booth. This was more than cooking now, it was about healing, community, and love, the very essence of what they had hoped to convey. "Okay, everyone," Sarah said, locking eyes with each friend. "Let us make our dishes shine. They're not just food, they're love delivered on a plate." As they worked, their spirits lifted, and soon laughter replaced the worry. But with Ralph still lurking around, Sarah could feel that storm cloud looming, ready to strike. What would happen when the festival resumed? Would their hard work go unnoticed? Just then, the crowd began to cheer. Lila had been wheeled away, but there was more. Commotion as heads turned. Sarah narrowed her eyes. Had Ralph taken the opportunity to stir the pot? With her heart in her throat, Sarah looked toward the source of the noise. What lay ahead could either break them or forge a stronger bond. The cheers that erupted from the crowd seemed to pulse with energy, but Sarah felt a knot twist in her stomach. She glanced at Mark, who shared her unease with a furrowed brow. "What's happening now?" he asked, throwing a wary look in the direction of the growing commotion. When she turned her gaze back, she saw Ralph standing on an elevated platform, his arms waving wildly. The festival's lively atmosphere was quickly morphing into something charged and tense. "Folks, we've got an unexpected turn of events," he shouted, his voice booming over the crowd. "While we were focused on our culinary delights, something more profound has happened, a true test of our community spirit." "Oh no," Sarah thought. She could see the whispers rippling through the crowd again, but this time they were laced with curiosity and excitement rather than concern. Ralph's exploitation of the moment felt distasteful, and it made her stomach churn. "And here's the kicker," Ralph continued, a manic gleam in his eye, "a festival that began with love is now tangled in a story that transcends food. It's about life, connection, and the power of faith." Sarah exchanged a glance with Claire. She thought about Lila, about how close they came to losing someone amidst the festival's revelry. Pain wasn't just a backdrop, it was real, and it felt cruel to turn it into mere spectacle. "No," Claire whispered, shaking her head. "He can't." But Sarah could see the excitement bubbling among others, like a pot poised to boil over. They weren't witnessing a moment, they were, in Ralph's hands, becoming part of a narrative. "Listen," Ralph shouted as he took small steps down from the platform, his feet barely touching the ground, "this is an opportunity to bond. To come together and share our personal stories instead of simply tasting the flavors tonight." The crowd erupted in applause. The very people who moments ago had been worrying and whispering were now cheering, drawn in by Ralph's charisma. Sarah felt her heart sinking. This wasn't the kind of togetherness they aimed to create. "Sarah?" Mark asked quietly, concern in his voice. "What do we do?" I think we need to show them what this festival is really about," she answered. Her voice was steadier than she felt. They had come to nourish spirit through food, to share meals that spoke of connection without the need for drama. And now, standing at the brink of something potentially divisive, it was time to counter Ralph's narrative with their own truth. "Let us set up a tasting booth," Sarah decided. "We can invite people to share their stories while they taste the dishes we've made. If he wants to turn this into a confessional, let us welcome it, but in our way." With newfound determination, Sarah turned back to her friends, urging them to regroup and share that warmth they had created moments ago. They had to transform this energy back into something beautiful, something real. "Come on, everyone. Let us gather around," she called, gathering the ingredients for the dishes they had prepared. "It's time to remind everyone what this festival stands for." As they began to prepare their booth, a sense of purpose enveloped them, pushing back against the chaotic tide that Ralph had summoned. But in the background, the loud cheers morphed into a chorus of divisive chatter. Some were still rallying behind Ralph while others supported her. Would they find common ground? Would their food draw people together instead of pushing them apart? With each dish they plated, Sarah felt the weight of the moment. This was more than a culinary showcase, it was an act of love, a testament to the community they hoped to cultivate. Just as they finished arranging their booth, a familiar silhouette blurred into focus. It was Lila, her face still pale but illuminated by a determined spirit. She moved slowly through the crowd, drawing attention like a magnet. "What is she doing here?" Claire gasped, both awe and concern in her voice as they all turned to Lila. The crowd's mood shifted curiously, and Sarah felt a rush of hope. Maybe, just maybe, Lila's presence would steal the resolve of those around her even further. But she also wondered, would Ralph's theatrics give way to real communion, or would this still spiral into a clash of attention? Sarah's heart raced again, heavy with the anticipation of what could happen next. Would they succeed in turning the tide, or was it too late? Lila paused at the edge of the crowd, her gaze sweeping over the sea of unfamiliar faces, before locking onto Sarah. A flicker of recognition danced across her features, and that moment felt like a lifeline tossed into turbulent waters. Sarah waved frantically, as if reaching out across an invisible divide, searching for that shared connection they had always enjoyed. "Lila!" she called, her voice carrying above the noise. The frenzy didn't ease, but it felt like time was slowing, every heartbeat punctuating the air. Lila's steps grew more assured, and Sarah noticed how her frail appearance seemed to anchor her newfound resolve. "Is this a bad time?" Lila teased, a weak smile crossing her lips that somehow felt bold against the backdrop of Ralph's chaos. "No, no, it's perfect," Sarah assured her, grateful for Lila's spirit. "We're just about to start a tasting booth hoping to bring everyone back together." The warmth in Lila's eyes flickered. "Do you really think it's going to work?" Sarah glanced nervously toward Ralph, who was now on the ground, his charisma spreading like ink in water among the crowd. It was intoxicating, but Sarah wasn't giving in. The heart of their festival couldn't drown under the weight of another's performance. "I have to believe it will," Sarah replied fiercely, gripping the counter as if it were the last steady point in a whirlwind. Claire joined them, her brow furrowing as she watched Ralph rallying the crowd, pulling stories of hardship and loss like threads from a tapestry. "This isn't what it's about," she murmured, her voice shaky. "Focus on us, on what we're doing," Sarah urged. "Let us create our own moment." With renewed energy, the three women dove into preparing their booth, turning vibrant ingredients into colorful dishes. The platform fizzled in and out of focus as they mixed spices, chopped vegetables, and plated each dish with precision. The aroma wafted through the air, a fragrant hug beckoning people closer. "Sarah, here comes Ralph," Mark whispered, his voice a tether of concern. It was as if the very atmosphere shifted, charged with excitement and uncertainty. Aware of the potential crossroads ahead, Sarah steadied herself. Lila looked ready to spring into action, navigating the landscape of voices. "Hey everyone!" Ralph's voice boomed again, slicing through the temporary calm as he gestured toward their booth. "Look! While I share life stories, our friends here want to offer you something special, a taste of community." A ripple of laughter merged with applause, and Lila's expression dimmed for a heartbeat. This could go so wrong, and yet come on, Lila, Sarah encouraged, sensing the hesitation. "You're what this festival is about. Share your story. People need to hear it." Lila hesitated, the weight of the moment pressing on them all. But then, pushing aside her nerves, she stepped forward. "All right," she said, her voice breaking the tension. "But only if someone is taste testing with me." The booth broke into laughter, the crowd gathering with curiosity piqued. It was their cue. Sarah arranged the plates proudly, hopeful that with each spoonful shared, they might build something meaningful amidst the discord. As Lila began to speak, her words danced like magic, wrapping around the crowd. Emotions flared, joy and empathy weaving through each story, shared her own story of hope, survival, and connection resonating with them. But as people's eyes glazed over with emotion, Sarah couldn't shake the unease. With Ralph observing closely, might this be the moment that would make or break them? Would Lila ignite a fire in the crowd, or would Ralph's story overshadow theirs? As plates were passed and stories unfolded, the intricate balance of community hung in the air, fragile and beautiful. Every glance exchanged, every bite taken felt pivotal. Sarah's pulse quickened. Were they winning over hearts? And just as the moment teetered on the edge, she caught Ralph's smug smile from the corner of her eye, watching, calculating. What was brewing behind that gaze? Would they genuinely unite, Or was there something darker planned? The tension ignited again, and Sarah's heart raced with anticipation. Lila's voice rose above the crowd, each syllable carrying a piece of her heart. She spoke of her struggles, the long days and lonely nights, but also of the flickers of light that guided her through the friendships, the laughter, the food that tied her to her roots. As she shared, the crowd leaned in, leaning closer, their faces reflecting the mix of empathy and curiosity. Sarah watched as Lila's confidence blossomed. This was her moment to shine. With every story, she pulled them further into the fabric of her life. The laughter, the shared memories, it began to weave a tapestry of connection that was almost tangible. Sarah felt a swell of pride. This was why they were here, to rekindle the sense of community that had flickered in the shadows for too long. But Ralph, ever the maestro of distraction, didn't sit idly by. He swung back into action, his spotlight now dangerously illuminating Lila. While she shares her heartwarming story, why not taste a little magic from our talented kitchen, he boomed, gesturing flamboyantly toward the dishes. Sarah's heart sank, the enthusiasm in the air suddenly feeling vulnerable. The audience was torn, they loved Lila, but Ralph was a showman. The air crackled with anticipation as if waiting for a match to ignite the kindling. "No, this is our time," she whispered fiercely to Claire, who stood beside her, a frown tangled in her brow. "We just need to keep them with us. Let the food do the talking." Claire nodded, returning to their makeshift kitchen. Together they began passing out samples, carefully curated bites that represented every flavor of their community. The soft crunch of fresh vegetables highlighted by zesty dressings, the warmth of the homemade bread, each tasting note a story in itself. "Taste this," Sarah called out, a plate of her grandmother's famous chili in hand. A recipe forged from love. Tiny moments transformed as people took bites. The smiles spreading across their faces, the way they began talking among one another, sharing their own memories. Connections that had been tentative just moments ago became vibrant and alive. Yet, Ralph's presence loomed, always weaving back into the fold. He floated from group to group, making jokes, captivating listeners with the glint of his charm. "And what do you think a little bit of heart can make a festival, huh?" he shouted, drawing chuckles even as he held a knowing smirk. Sarah felt a rush of frustration. This was supposed to be about healing, about community, about life. Yet Ralph's influence felt as overwhelming as a tidal wave, threatening to wash away everything they'd built. How could they compete with someone so charming, so effortless in the chaos? But then she caught sight of Lila once more. Standing at the center of their booth, glowing as she shared her story while taste testers savored the dishes. When Lila turned, her eyes sparkled with a ferocity that pierced right through the noise. She had the passion, the authenticity that Ralph could only mimic. "Sarah!" Claire called out, suddenly breaking through her thoughts. "Look!" Sarah's gaze shifted, and her heart lurched. A group of festival-goers had gathered, plates in hand. They were not just eating, they were animatedly discussing, connecting the flavors to stories of their own lives, creating bonds over shared experiences. This was it. This was what they'd hoped for. A little flame ignited with each bite, and she could see it spreading, a fire of connection kindling in hearts once again. Ralph's calculating gaze fell upon them like a shadow, and Sarah steeled herself. The uncertainty gripped her stomach, they were on the brink of something transformative. "People love what we're doing," Lila's voice rang out again, and Sarah could feel the momentum shifting. But could it sustain? As Sarah looked across the crowd, she felt the charged air vibrating with hope, but also fear. The stakes had never been higher, and the pressure mounted. Would Ralph rise to overshadow them, or would this community rally behind Lila and her inspired message? In that moment, as Ralph's laughter echoed through the air, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that they were at a precipice, all of them. And she knew that soon, choices would have to be made that could alter everything once and for all. What would happen when the crowd realized they had an option? Would their loyalty remain with the charismatic Ralph, or would they dare to embrace something deeper? As the festival reached its zenith, uncertainty hung heavy in the air, poised to tip in any direction. As the sun hung high, casting a warm glow over the festival, Sarah felt the charged energy in the air. People had gathered, eagerly sampling the dishes her team had crafted, laughter bubbling up like the aroma filling the space. Yet, Ralph was a tension threaded through the glee, manipulating the narrative, and Sarah needed to find a way to ground them in love and community. "Let us do a storytelling circle," Lila suggested suddenly, her eyes bright with enthusiasm. "We can each share a memory tied to the dish we're serving. That way, it's not just food we're sharing, it's our history." "Yeah," Claire chimed in, energy igniting. "People will connect over real memories, bring the focus back to what this festival should be about." "Yes," Sarah declared, feeling hope soar through her heart. This was it. An opportunity to turn Ralph's mockery into a celebration of who they were. As they worked together, the booth infused with warmth, Sarah swiftly organized an impromptu area for people to gather and share. She called out, "All right, everyone. We want to hear your stories. Join us at the tasting booth. Your tales are just as important as the food." As people approached, sharing tales about their childhoods, happy moments spent with family around the dinner table, Sarah smiled wide, all the warmth of their community flooding back. Lila took center stage, recounting her story of pulling together dishes during hard times, where food wasn't just a necessity but a canvas of comfort and love. With every heartfelt memory shared, Sarah sensed a spirit of togetherness sparking alive. The crowd wasn't just tasting, they were bonding over their shared experiences, laughter ringing out like music. Yet, amidst the warmth, Ralph could feel his grip slip. With the crowd's excitement building, he stepped closer, his facade showing cracks. "That's nice and all," he called out, voice dripping with disbelief. "But let us come back to the competition. How can this simple bonding over stories compare with the artistry I've crafted?" The crowd hushed, tension rising again as Sarah's heart raced. How could he diminish what they were creating? Without skipping a beat, Sarah stepped forward, her heart pounding. "Ralph, it's not about artistry, it's about heart. It's about connecting, nourishing souls, and creating memories together," she asserted. "What we're doing here isn't merely a contest, it's a celebration. It's about love and history brought to life through these recipes." The crowd began to murmur in agreement, feeling the weight of her words. The stories bonded them, and Ralph's competitive nature suddenly felt hollow. Seeing the tide turning, a flicker of desperation crossed Ralph's face. "People are fickle. You think your stories will sustain them? It's my dishes that bring prestige." Sarah felt the tension, but she wouldn't let him spiral their moment away. "Too often we forget that it's not just the plate but what's behind it that truly matters," she replied, her voice firm. "It's family, it's community. Derek, what does Grandma's pie mean to you?" "Grandma's pie reminds me of Sunday dinners," a young man called out from the crowd, rising to share. Slowly, others joined in, sharing stories that flowed like water, cascading over each other. Laughter erupted as each memory painted vivid images of long-lost gatherings, sparks of joy igniting throughout the crowd. With each story shared, Sarah watched as Ralph's influence began to wane. Lila's laughter intertwined with the crowd's, building a tapestry of connection that twinkled against Ralph's growing isolation. Finally, Ralph stepped back, a mix of anger and disbelief simmering on his face. "This isn't over, Sarah," he declared sharply, but she felt the power of the community pulsating around her, unyielding and unbroken. As the energy shifted, Sarah's heart soared. They had reclaimed the festival, filling the air with genuine laughter and connection. She glanced around, neighbors embracing, old friends reconnecting, the essence of community resurrecting before her eyes. Amidst the vibrant scene, one remarkable thing happened, people began coming over not just to participate in the storytelling but to enjoy the food, to dive into the rich history poured into every recipe they prepared. "We'll do more than mere tastings," Sarah announced, the warmth of passion pulsing through her. "Let us cook together. Join us for a live cook-off, each of us sharing our flavors while we celebrate." The crowd erupted into applause, excitement swirling like a joyful breeze. Ralph stood on the sidelines, growing small while Sarah and her friends blossomed together. And just like that, the competition transformed into something greater, a celebration of life and community, sharpening their bond while sidelining all judgment. Each dish became a vessel of love, an ember of connection. Faces brightened, and hearts soared higher. They ventured into the kitchen together like a family, each sharing their twist on meals, laughter spilling forth as ingredients merged with cherished memories. As the festival wind swept through, Sarah felt the warmth of joy flood her heart. This was what it meant to create, to belong, a living tapestry woven from their stories. They weren't just tasting food, they were tasting unity, love, and compassion. And while Ralph's voice faded into the background, Sarah realized they had transcended the contest. They weren't just individuals trying to prove themselves, they had become a community, intertwined through love and feeding each other as spirits. In that moment, it became clear Sarah's journey wasn't about triumph over a rival, it was about sharing and embracing the very essence of community, a realization she'd hold close in her heart forever. The festival had transformed into a true celebration, filled with hope and warmth, and as laughter echoed through the town square, Sarah's heart soared with the love they had all gathered to share. As dusk settled, painted skies colored their faces with gold. They had accomplished more than they ever imagined. It was clear that it was never just about a bowl or those singular dishes. It was about the bonds forged around shared experiences, community, and love. And just as Sarah reveled in the victorious spirit surrounding them, she urged everyone, let us carry this essence beyond today. The flavors of our stories should ripple out into every corner of our lives. The crowd cheered louder, affirming their unity, and amidst joy, warmth, and connection flowed through every heart, transforming lives forever. Now it's time for you to take action. You need to subscribe immediately to our channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that will inspire you. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help us grow this amazing community. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Let us spread this message of love and unity together.